us understand one another and learn to live together as brothers and sisters. Without togetherness, we won't have a peace of mind. Let's celebrate and have a peaceful home. Sweet Liberia, land of liberty is our home. Let us keep it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Election Central. My name is Alfonso Mina. I'm expecting Michael Rennie, who's one of the co-hosts, and also Mr. Cyrus Gray. Cyrus is in Liberia, so he will be joining us soon. He did say, he texted me and said he's having some connection problems, so internet issues. So hopefully he's able to join us. As always, we'll be talking democracy and election issues as they relate, as we all know, governance and democracy, good governance are a reflection of really have an impact on every aspect of our lives. So we'll be talking corruption, we'll be talking the economy and job creation as we talk about the November 4th presidential runoff elections and the suitability of each of the candidates for the presidential race. We'll also have with us a guest, Mr. J. Yanko Zeze. Mr. Zeze is the chairman of the Liberia People's Party. That's the party whose standard bearer was Councillor Tiawan Sebanglo. So we'll be having a conversation with Mr. Zeze. We'll be asking him why his party, the Liberia People's Party, endorsed the Unity Party, and they didn't stand on the sidelines like other parties have done, and whether or not they were promised something or they were given something. Because as we know, in Liberia, endorsements these days comes with purses like some money, or even promises of jobs, etc. So we'll be having that conversation with Mr. Zeze. I just saw Michael, my colleague, has entered the studio, so I'm going to add Michael in here. Well, hey, Michael, welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I guess it's absolutely. So as I was saying earlier, Cyrus said he's having some connectivity problems, so he will be able to join. I think he said the CDC is doing their campaign closing today, so it looks like all of the internet services are kind of jammed. But we have Mr. Zeze from Liberia. Fortunately, he's able to join us. He's in the background. But before we bring him on stage, I was introducing the show. I was talking about the runoff elections. Are we ready and prepared? How will the Liberian people go? Mr. Weah is seeking a second term in office. Did he deliver on his first term promises to fight corruption and to bring development? So we'll be discussing all of those. We'll also discuss the incident of election violence in Nimba County. Uh, uh, Information is that people were shot while they were going to campaign in Nimba County. We'll talk about it and the impact it may have on voter turnout and the overall impact on democracy and participation in democratic processes in general.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what I want to do is, before we get to that point, I want to bring Mr. Zeze on stage and give our viewers the opportunity of him introducing himself so they can get to know him, and then we can start our conversation. But before I do that, Michael, real quickly, did you have anything you wanted to bring in?
Well, I'm excited.
I think
I was very high on.
yeah, I missed it.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. So I
I
was
hear you
saying
now.
I'm excited to have Mr. Yanko Zeze on the show. Yeah, I'm excited to have Mr. Yanko Zeze on the show because I was very excited for Councillor Gonglo campaign, and I would like to hear more of the future plans the LPP has for Councillor Gonglo. So yeah, I'm very excited to have him on the show. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So what I'll do, I mean, it's in Liberia, the time differences. So what I'll do, I'll bring Mr. Zeze in, give him an opportunity to introduce himself, and then we can start our conversation. Mr. Zeze, are you there?
I'm there, sir. But it looks like the view
Okay.
might not
So
be.
welcome to Election Central. As I said, in Election Central, we discuss elections, democracy, rule of law, social justice, economic issues, basically everything that has to do with good governance. Because we all know good governance does impact the lives of citizens of a particular country. So, welcome to Election Central. We want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself before we go into the conversation.
Well, good evening to all, or good afternoon on that side. On this side is close to 7 o'clock. So, my name is J. Yankwe Zeze from Feasible Town, Zaza District, Lofa County, Liberia. When the Tottenham High, when the LU entered at the New School for Social Research, later on got CPA, but retired in 2016. I decided to go back home to join my colleagues from the progressive camp to begin to address some of the issues that are affecting our country. And we decided to see how we can resuscitate the Liberian People's Party, a birth child of the Movement for Justice in Africa, MOJA. So got in touch with a couple of the guys, and we decided to see how best we can help in convincing Liberians that the current economic system, the current political system, the current social system, not good for Liberians. And fortunately, we managed to find out that Tiawon Gonglo had interest. So we worked around him and he agreed to be at least one of the aspirants to contest for the standard bearership of the Liberian People's Party. And we did that. He was elected and we got in the race. So here we are today. We are now uh, supporting Boakai, who ended up in the second round with the CDC standard bearer, Honorable George Mana Weah. Quickly, the party is a little bit different from other political parties. We judge issues based on principles, norms of society, precedents, if there are no laws. So, for example, in our party, we do not have a political leader. We have an institution. So quickly to go to your question as to why we selected the Unity Party, after we considered that we didn't have a chance to go to the second round, and we were not prepared to go into the debates as to whether the free and fair election, we thought it was just going to be a waste of time, and therefore we considered. But we look at the two institutions. For example, the Unity Party said they want to rescue Liberia. CPP said that Liberians were tired of corruption, mismanagement, and what have you. All Liberians, or many of the Liberians, with the exception of those who are benefiting from the spoils, have concluded that the individual, the party that is leading the country, is responsible for Liberian being in an ICU, intensive care unit. And therefore, it was easy for us to make a decision that if the party that is ruling the government, that is ruling Liberia, is responsible, then you have to take the next political party even though you may have different views with that party, to see how best people can share ideas and redeem Liberia. So it was easy for us to select the Unity Party, and we didn't have to ask for a job, because for us, selecting the Unity Party is to give them a chance to put forward, if they have some uh, platform, put forward, because they never participated in the debates. But however, we thought that they are better off than CDC, and we believe that if we give them a chance, they will do fine. But we give them 100 days. If they fail to do some of the things we outlined, you can rest assured we'll be back in the opposition camp. We now become allies. We are only allies to make sure that George Weah does not get what he wants in terms of being re-elected. But other than that, we stay a potent force, because we believe that there are ideas, there are good ideas that can make Liberia better, just like any other country. I'd like to stop there to see if there are other questions.
Okay, thank you. So before we go further, let me ask you. Yeah, definitely. So every political party goes into a race to win. So I'm sure the LPP was not an exception in this case. What happened? Why do you think you didn't do as well? You didn't win to go in the first round. You didn't win to go to the second round, and you didn't do as well as you did.
I have not consulted with my specialists who do the post-election analysis, so whatever I give you will just be from the top of my finger. Frankly speaking, election in places like Liberia is all about money in many of the places. We didn't have the money. We decided that we will have to change the dynamics in Liberia, specifically when it comes to campaigning and accepting bribes or giving bribes. We felt that it is about time, even though we have to pay a price, to change the attitude, to tell the Liberian people that if you accept a bag of rice, then do not expect anything better from those that are elected. And for those who are benefiting from the society, the CPAs, the accountants, the lawyers, the physicians, if you sit on the sideline and don't care to ensure that a better leader is selected, do not complain tomorrow when there's chaos. Because what we have in Liberia is that the poor people receive back arrest or receive promises to vote for any candidate, whether that candidate is good or bad. Those who are benefiting from the spoils of society, they sit on the fence and claim, oh, I'm not a politician. I don't need to argue because I work for the World Bank, I work for the IMF, I work for an NGO, and I'm a technician. I don't have to be bothered. But tomorrow, when there's chaos, don't complain, because, my friends, if you go down on Macklin Street, you will see what it is, or what are the things that can cause confusion that will lead to chaos and that will lead to civil war. You got more sellers than buyers. You got children who are underage that are not going to school. You got unqualified teachers who are teaching. You got unlimited physicians out there. So you have children dying at ages, and you ask yourself why. You have diseases that can be cured but are killing people. You have hospitals that the drugs are not there because the physicians are making sure to get additional money by selling the drugs from the drugstore to their special customers. So those kinds of things are just sufficient to tell you that we are breeding the elements of chaos in Liberia. And if we do not do the right thing and vote the right candidate, we're going to have a chaos in society. The ambassador, Michael A. McCarthy, his honorable, told us that he visited 15 counties. 15 counties. There were no schools. If there were schools, there were no teachers. If there were teachers, there were no benches. If there were benches, you didn't have qualified teachers. If there were clinics, there were no drugs. If there were roads, you could not pass through with a car. Even if you have NGO car, you couldn't go through. If you had trucks, you could not go through. Our candidate took out his shoes and walked in the mud to clear the path in order for the water to drain down the hill so motor cars could pass. I mean, if you have that kind of a condition, how do you think things are going to improve? Of course, the EU told you that, look, the state, the government, George Weah and his cronies and economic advisors are using state resources to finance the campaign. What else do we have to know that this man should not be re-elected? If this man cannot obey the rules of the game, if this man is stealing resources to finance the campaign, of course, they will kill anybody who is going out there to see to it that he is not elected. I mean, we hear about violence in Nimba. Of course, yes, violence will be in Nimba. Why? Because Nimba is the vote-rich county, and George Weah is aware that he does not get sufficient vote from Nimba, he might not win. So the violence is going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll go there. We have a special segment for that piece, so we'll definitely utilize your expertise on that one. I'm curious, in your discussions with the Unity Party, what was some of or did you raise any specific things, expectations of them? I know you talked about you gave them 100 days. 100 days to accomplish what? What are some of the things that you put on the table?
Number one, to fight corruption. In fact, we just had a press conference. We are asking the Unity Party, one, to alert or inform the public to stop doing business with this government. Why? This government does not honor agreements. One of the agreements we should look at is the agreement that was signed between Liberia and the Central Bank of Liberia. The Central Bank of Liberia is a subsidiary, a child of the government of Liberia, meaning the government of Liberia owns 100% share in the Central Bank. They signed an agreement, then the agreement stipulated that the debt the Liberian government is owing the Central Bank, the government will begin paying the debt in 2029. But the Weah government decided to start paying in 2020. Why? That's a violation of your own agreement. So if you have a government that does not respect agreement between the government and its own subsidiary, is it going to respect agreement between government and merchants, government and contractors, government and African Development Bank, government and the central and commercial bank? Here you are today in 2022. They receive $150 million by selling IOU bonds in a technical sense, T-bills, treasury bills, T-bills, and bonds are called IOU for people in the street, meaning the government gives you a piece of paper and you give your money to the government with the promise they will pay you interest until maturity date, they will pay you the full amount. But government received 150 million, and government should have included that 150 million in the 2022 budget. Go to the budget page, I think Roman number 1X1. You will see that there's no amount of money reported in the 2022 budget that they received 150 million from this commercial bank in Liberia. So what happened to 150 million?
So
it disappeared.
Yeah. So the question is, where's the 150 million?
Exactly. Right. So we are asking the Unity Party that assuming office, the first thing you should do is to file a lawsuit against these economic advisors, not George Weah, because he may be immune. Don't waste your time. go behind those individuals who doctored the papers, who wrote numbers that are incorrect. The second point, they claim they pay 35 million in 2020, 72 million in 2021, and 45 million in 2022 as debt paid to commercial bank. But if you check the central bank report, you will see that the payments were not made because the amounts are increasing and the amounts are not reducing. So it means they reported money in the budget that they're going to use to pay the domestic creditors, but they didn't pay them. So what happened to the money that was appropriated, that was used to pay domestic creditors, but the payments were not made? Again, if you go back to the central bank report, you will see that the domestic debt did not reduce, it increased. And so I send you the copy of our position paper to you. If you go through it, you can show it to your audience that the central bank report is there. It's not prepared by the Liberian People's Party. It's prepared by the central bank.
Yep.
The central bank is giving figures, and those figures are there.
So basically, you're saying if the Unity Party wins, and you hope that they do, that one of the things they should tackle is corruption. Go after former government
Economic advisors.
Yeah, economic advisors, former government officials who might have manipulated figures and numbers. So that's one of the demands you've made to the Unity Party government. Before we go to the other question I have, and before I bring in other Michael to ask us questions, did the Unity Party accept that they will work on those requests or demands that you made?
We think this is not the time to ask for answer. We put our issues forward publicly, we circulated it. It is up to them to say yes or no. And I think they're not going to say no now because they need our votes. So they're going to say yes, I assume.
Okay.
I assume.
Okay. So the other thing is, yeah, well, the shoot, and I think as you correctly said, if they do not, then you will begin to aggressively criticize them. So real quickly, what is the Liberia People's Party doing now that you've endorsed the United Party? What are you doing, if anything at all,
For example,
to support the United Party's election?
We got people in Nimba now. One of the places where we have questions of whether we're going to deliver the votes. Why? Because somebody who supported our camp during the campaign turned around to support CDC against the individual we endorse. We have to go back. We got people in the field now going back to our supporters to say, please don't pay attention to anybody that tells you that you should vote for CDC because you believe in Councillor Gonglo. If Councillor Gonglo is the one you believe in and he told you, vote for me, believing if he's telling you that we should go for Boakai, that's the man you should go for. So right now we got people in the field visiting those homes, to ensure that that damage that has been created by some of the people who supported us before will be corrected. We are there now in the field. We got team of foot soldiers knocking doors. After the show, I will send some pictures to tell you that what I'm telling you what I'm telling you is valid. I'm not just
one
talking.
of the things, yeah, no, I mean, one of the
And
things.
yesterday, we had 2 trucks filled with people supporting the Unity Party launching of the campaign. The Vice Tenebero and I were there. We were in a float with the Honorable Joseph Nima Boakai. Were along with him, waving the flags, telling people that this is the vote you should count. Vote number 1, vote for Boakai. We had two trucks filled with our members supporting the team. We had our vice presidential candidate supporting the team. I was there with the broom telling people, in fact, the Unity members welcome the broom. They say, yes, we'll use the broom to sweep corruption.
And I think, well, yes, I did see some of those, and I would appreciate you sending more as well. But one of the things that as I was listening to another show yesterday, one of the things that callers were concerned about is that Councillor Gonglo himself has not really been seen campaigning for the Unity Party. And people believe is because it could be because of something that you just referred to, even though you didn't say names, but related to his sister who supported him now going to endorse and support the CDC, and he not coming out to campaign. But we see the vice standard bearer, LPB vice standard bearer campaigning. He was in Bunk, he was in Nimba, he was on the float yesterday, as you said. But the former standard bearer himself is not really seen out there. Is it so people are kind of wondering whether his endorsement was genuine or whether it was just lukewarm or it's a family crisis that's taking place that he doesn't want to come up and campaign as aggressively as you, the chairman, as the vice chair, and other people do.
It's an educational process the Liberian People Party is carrying the Liberian people through.
Yeah.
First, we started by saying we are not going to bribe people. We are not going to give t-shirts out. We're not going to be visiting or calling town meeting and bring everybody together. Instead, we visited the villages. So what happened yesterday? That's what Unity Party did. They didn't go to a specific place. We drove around town. The same way Councillor Gonglo and LPP drove around the villages. All right? Two, we are now beginning to tell the Liberian people that after the election, Councillor Tiawon Gonglo and Dr. Imaya Yuri Yakpabulu are former standard bearer and vice standard bearer respectively. They are not political leaders. They fall under the umbrella of the party. People don't do that in other parties. In other parties, the political leader is the head. When he speaks, that's it. We don't do that in our party. When we were having the vote to decide who to support, the executive committee members were not the one that voted. Ordinary members voted, and they told us the decision. So you see, we're different from other political parties. We are also telling you that the decision to support Boakai was not their own alone decision, it was a decision by the party. And Tiawon cannot go against the decision of the party. He is in favor 100%. We are telling the Liberian people that if the party makes a decision, that's the decision of the party. An individual cannot, if you go against it, there's a price to be paid. And we made that announcement in a press conference that those individuals who are going against the party, who are members, especially carrying the name as party leaders, they're going to be investigated and prosecuted. But we're telling you, it is the party. The day the time comes for Councillor Gonglo to appear, he's going to tell you that he's there, and he's there. He's with us in spirit. He may not have appeared physically, but he's there in spirit with us. And I can tell you, rest assured, our party is different from other parties. Our party is trying to educate the Liberian people. We cannot be saying, let's reduce this concept of imperial presidency. Then at the same time, we say, it got to be the Senate bearer. If the Senate bearer is not there, then there's no party. We cannot have our cake and eat at the same time, Chief. If we're going to reduce it, this is how you reduce it.
All right. No.
Now we're telling the Liberian people, do not look at the presidential candidate alone. Look at the party. The party is important.
Okay. I just wanted to give Michael an opportunity to come in.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Zeze. So you made a statement about the LPP not having a lot of funding, and like I said, in the beginning, I was very, very high on Gonglo, and I was part of things that was going on, and so now I did realize in the early stage that LPP did not have access to the kind of funding needed, to really have an impact in this election. So I'm not surprised that you say that. My question to you, because you said that the government is using the CDC has access to funding, and they're using government resources and all that stuff. And I'm one of those people. I have my belief is that you cannot point fingers to other people. If those same fingers are pointed at you, you are guilty of the same thing. So my question to you would be: what did you guys do for your campaign financially that you are ready to, make your financial report to the NEC, that you can then hold the NEC accountable to have the CDC and other political parties, present their campaign finances of financing or report. So that way, you can show that you follow the laws and that, the CDC did not follow regulations and can be held accountable. Are you guys doing that? Because
Oh
if
yeah,
you cannot do that,
we
then
have.
you cannot point fingers at the CDC.
Uh, I can tell you, in terms of submitting financial report, we don't play with it, because for us, we believe to be accountable, to be transparent is one of the best things you can do in life. Because when you do it, tomorrow you are prepared to accuse others. We submitted a financial report. We are about to submit another one. I can tell you that, in fact, in order to tell people that we are covering all expenses to ensure that we met the requirement, we didn't go above the 2 million. We included some, you might not call it income, but if we had people, for example, who are lawyers, 765 lawyers, who were working, spending hours on our campaign, we quantify it into numbers to say it was donated, given to the party. We include it as income. I don't know how many people would do that. They might put as expensive, but I'm telling you, in order, because if, for example, you went to a church and you provided services, that church can allow you to deduct the value of the services from your tax return. But here, they may not be deducting it, but we want to make sure to tell people we're going to cover every aspect of the campaign. Donations that were given for the use of the campaign are recorded, whether they were services or whether they were tangible properties. We're recording them. So we will be fair and equal to report every dime that one can consider that party incurred or benefited from. We're going to record everything to be submitted to the NEC. If they don't ask for it, our financial report will show it. I can tell you that.
All right. So, Michael, are you done? Do you want me to go?
Yeah, we can continue now, Jenny.
Okay. So another thing, Mr. Zizit, thank you by the way for all of the information. One thing I wanted to ask about is that are you confident that the playing field is level for the runoff elections? I mean, we've heard reports, we've heard things. You even talk about how violence is being perpetrated as a way of preventing people from voting. Are you confident that the second round, which is the presidential runoff, will be fair and will be credible? And the reason I'm
Our
asking
tech,
is, again, the
our
EU observation statement also did talk about certain things. So a number of people have raised some really critical issues that might impact the election. For example, in the first round in Sino County, voting didn't take place on the same day because ballot papers
Can I
and
call you back,
other
Sam?
boxes did not arrive on time. We also had other hitches in the process. Are you confident that those things have been addressed to the point that we can have
Y-
free, fair, and credible elections on November 14th?
Yes, our privilege yesterday to have been in a meeting after the parade, and technicians were there. The same question you're posing, the question were posed by interested parties, senior members of the party, asking technicians, where are we prepared? And the answer was yes, that the mistakes that were made, they are doing everything to cover up. Also, Yaka Kolba commented on that today. We had, I mean, now the press conference, after the press conference, when he had a newsman asking him a question, he responded that the mistakes that were made, they correcting them. And you can see, for example, they brought in a Ghanaian to train the staff. Why? Was to make sure to reduce the errors that were made. They are now in some counties. They are now making sure that individuals that were found to be citizens but employed as NEC technicians, they are identifying them and removing them. So that is being done. There was a list that we circulated where you had EPS or personnel of the government employed as NEC employees. We identified them and are working on that. So a lot of mistakes were made, and I'm sure the technicians. I mean, the best you can do to avoid conflict is to also do your homework, and we're doing our homework to make sure that the election is ours, and we're not going to allow anybody to steal it in the first place.
Okay. Um, so one of the issues is, we talk about, you and Michael talk about campaign finance regulations and campaign finance regulations being violated. For instance, the EU Observer Mission said, and we all saw it by the way, but they wrote it in their report that the government, the CDC, the ruling party used was involved in abundant. They said abundant use of state resources by the incumbents said distorted the level playing field. I see that they're still using state resources today. They also said disproportionate spending on behalf of the ruling party and incumbent president distorted the fairness of the campaign. Widespread use of state resources such as official vehicles and buildings. Appointed officials at the county or electoral district level were publicly campaigning in favor of the party, and civil servants were basically pressured and even intimidated to attend ruling party rallies or to even vote for the ruling party. I mean, these are just few of the things that the International Observer Mission has pointed out. Um, are you again? I'll go back to my previous question because I haven't really heard any political party, not the LPP, not the Unity Party, not the ANC and the CPP, really go to bat on these issues. Take the ruling party to tax on these issues. Take the election commission to tax on these issues, or even go into court to say these laws are being violated. That I haven't seen that happen. Maybe it happened, we missed it. But is there any concern, that these things could again distort the playing field and make it uneven and tilt the process in favor of the ruling CDC?
Well, I understand the concern, and I would not want to go back to what we did in the past. Even when it came to the census, LP wrote position papers that the census was not going to be good. When it came to the biometric system, LPP was the first to say it was never going to work, it was never going to be used. LPP was the first also to say that you cannot have a subordinate that is under undue influence to be independent. It's clear. This woman is on a duress. Why I say so? Because she was investigated, she was caught to be corrupt, and she was investigated on technical ground. They said she was not guilty, but we know very well that alone is the fear. And we didn't think that with her there, you can have free and fair election. So we raised so many issues. Back to the specific points you are raising. Again, like I said to you yesterday in a meeting, senior staff members of Unity Party raised those identical points with the technicians that are in the field. And they said, yes, we have the best, we will do the best, and we'll make sure the elections will be ours and the results will not be stolen from us as it happened the last time.
Okay. Michael, yeah, you want to come in or you want to keep going?
Yeah, I think these are things that have been going on for a while now in Liberia. I know, and I know you cannot, you know, elections globally always have similar issues because it's the same thing that's happening. People are trying to vote, and people are trying to figure a way to give themselves an advantage. Unfortunately, in Liberia, I don't think anything has been done positively by the opposition party collectively, you know, to work together in as much as the opposition may not be, may not have the same viewpoint. But there's one thing they should all be united on would be, free and fair elections, you know. So it doesn't matter if your candidate win or not. At the end of the day, you want free and fair elections. And I think that's something the opposition needs to work together and make sure that when they are submitting complaints, they are submitting issues with the election process or things they're seeing that are irregularities, that those things are being addressed. You know, and but unfortunately, we haven't seen that level of unity from the opposition parties. We have 20 parties. Most of the time, you only see two or three parties at the top that's doing this stuff, and the rest of the other parties just fade away. So I'm hoping that with whatever irregularities that you guys have documented over the first round of the election, you guys can formulate a group of with all the other 20 political parties that are in the election to work with the NEC going forward to address some of these irregularities,
And I agree
so
with
that
you.
those things do not
Okay.
continue. Some small minor things can be fixed. So I do hope that you guys work, yeah, to resolve some of these issues, and I do hope so after this election.
During this election, for example, one of the things LPP has decided to do, many of us who will not be in the station room anymore, like me, I'm going to be in my car patrolling the different pool washers to make sure they are at their position, to make sure they're doing the work they promised to do. So many of us will not go sit down waiting for the results. Rather, we ourselves, this chairman here in District 6, I'm going to be in my car to find out, to go to places and see whether our pool washers are there on time and are attentive. I'm going to be in the field on Tuesday. So that's just giving an example, because sometimes some pool washers may be lazy or not lazy, may not pay attention, and things may happen the wrong way. So I am going to
So,
be in the field.
so
There are other guys,
yeah.
other leaders who promise that we will be in the field visiting pool washers to make sure that if you're going to go for lunch, somebody is there to replace you, to make sure there's an eyeball to eyeball on those that are voting and on the officers or officials of NEC. So I'm going to be in the field. Jay Uncle Jose will be in the field.
So, all right. So, Mr. Zeze, one of the things your party is known for is the broom. And the broom is a symbol, as you have articulated, a symbol of coming to sweep all of the vices out of Liberia, and specifically corruption, which is really impacting the livelihood of the people in the country. So, I wanted to ask you a question on corruption related to your position in endorsing the Unity Party, but also in terms of the why you think is the ruling CDC's scorecard when it comes to fighting corruption. So one of the things that the CDC campaigned on in 2017, well, we will come, we will fight corruption, we will prosecute people who were engaged in corruption in the previous administrations, and we'll make sure the resources of the country are applied to developing the people, developing infrastructure, like building roads and safe drinking water and all of those things. Do you think that the CDC has delivered on that promise?
How can they deliver when the European Union is telling you that if you use state resources to finance the campaign? How can they deliver when the ambassador is telling you that they use state resources for different things rather than those things that are outlined in the budget? I mean, how can they deliver when, George, we are building 13 complexes in less than 8 months? How can they deliver when Nathaniel McGee is telling you, oh, we can steal. It's okay. We can steal as long as we invest the money in Liberia. I mean, it's not possible to deliver when they believe that stealing is okay. It's not, because conceptually, they believe that as long as you invest in the money in Liberia, it's okay to steal. They told you they're going to steal. They didn't say they're not going to steal. They say they're going to steal, but as long they invest the money, it's okay. I mean, you see people building universities, and they say, "Oh yeah, this man didn't have a dime a few months ago, but today he has money to build a university." Where did he get the money from? Because why? He was a member of the committee on the budget, and when before they can pass the budget, they go to the different agencies and ministries. They say, "Oh, look, your budget is going to be increased by 10%. I'm not going to approve it if I'm not promised that I'm going to get some share." So, of course, the representatives and the senators get a cut. The president gets a cut. That's why, for example, there's no money in the budget. Go to, for example, look at the concessionary companies. Look at Metal Steel, for example. They promised in the concessionary agreement that they will give 3 million divided among 3 counties: Nimba, Bong, and Bassa. I put an analysis. You can go on my page, you'll see it. 2016, 2017, the total amount giving as mandatory cash was less than 500,000 for 2 years instead of the 3 million. If you go forward to 2018, 2019, mandatory cash was not there for Metal Steel. They didn't give zero. They gave zero in terms of that 3 million. Is the government asking them why? No question. Go to Bear Mountain and see, and the report, they refuse to give a report of how many ounces of diamond, ounces of gold, carats of diamond they exported. They didn't tell you, they refused to file a report. Why is the government not asking them to give a complete report? This is a concessionary company that should be giving us a complete report. They are not giving us a complete report. Is the government asking questions? No. Why? Well, of course, somebody got a brown envelope and they said, you don't have to submit any financial statement. Report anything you report. That's the kind of system we have. And that's what we need to stop. We need to focus to see how best we can change these things. Other than that, we're not going to be far from Ghana. Ghana has defaulted on the loan. So is Kenya also in trouble. So is Egypt is in trouble. And I brought these 3 countries for one reason. Because in 2009, our good president of the world, Barack Obama, Honorable Barack Obama, told us we should follow the economic system of Ghana, Kenya, and Egypt. Those are the 3 countries he visited when he visited Africa. But today, those 3 countries are come to the World Bank. They are the spoil child of corruption and debt management. Debt management. And that's what we're talking about. If we're going to get serious, then the Unity Party and all of us, including you guys, we should begin to bang the door on the fight on corruption. We should begin to ask the physicians, the lawyers, the accountants, the religious leaders, how come they are not fighting corruption? Why? We should ask them questions. Bring them on your show, sir. It should not only be the political leaders. We should not keep quiet. We all should be.
So real quickly, let me just go over.
So,
Yep.
Mr.
Corruption
Cesar,
in
a lot of things you've said.
Yes. Yeah. Before we move on, but go on, Marco. Did we lose him?
No, I was going to ask Mr. Zeze a lot of things you've said about corruption. I was curious as to what or how the Liberian People Party-led government, if Councillor Gonglo had won the election, how were they going to address some of these corruption issues and economic development in the country? I was curious to learn more about that, about their platform on that.
He listed a whole series of issues how to fight corruption, but start by saying, 1, they're going to have a lifestyle audit. 2, they're going to insist that all officials disclose their salaries on the internet, so we can know from day 1 how much you're making, so that after 2-3 years, when you build a house, we'll be able to know whether you earn the money or you got the money through some brown envelopes. One way of fighting it. Three, we're going to make sure to shame public officials and prosecute them. How come in other countries, when people get corrupt or when they're accused of corruption, some of them commit suicide? How come in Liberia, when they steal money, they are celebrities? How come? We need to change our ways. We need to change our mentality. You know, I remember when I was in Tottenham High, I used to hear government property. They tell you eat as much as you can eat. It's not going to finish. You go on the football field, they say that government boom means anybody can play you far, no whistle will be blown. So I'm saying to you, the concept we got about corruption is bad. When we steal, we are good. When we don't steal, we are not sophisticated. We are not a top class. So we ourselves have to change the mentality. When our friends steal, we are prepared to protect them. When our enemies steal, before we make the noise. How many of us have challenged our friends, our brothers, our sisters, our wives, our husband? They say, how much did you make? How come you buy a fancy car for me when I know you don't make that much money? How many of us are willing to do so? How many of us, we laugh and say, oh, the progressive don't have houses. Oh yeah? You sound like George Weah. Because he said the progressive has stayed here for 60 years with PhD, but they don't have bicycles, they don't have cars, they don't have offices, they don't have houses. What are the Liberian people saying? They say the progressive are not doing well because they are not rich. We are saying, LPP is saying, we must change the mentality. Getting the power is not to get rich, but to serve the Liberian people. So first, we need to change the mentality, and we need to begin to do those things. Audit people, prosecute people. The moment we begin to audit and prosecute, you will see that people will begin to say the government is serious to fight corruption, and therefore nobody will want to steal. Government will not be a place. There will be no incentive to work for government if people are prosecuted. If people do not go free when they steal, if people are not considered to be celebrities when they steal, that's where we need to start. We need to change the mentality of the Liberian people. The mentality of the Liberian people is bad. When our friends steal, we celebrate. When our enemies steal, before we cry. We cannot do that. We cannot be selective in our prosecution or in our efforts to fight corruption. We have to have, across the board system. So that's what Tiawan Konglu would have done had he
So I
won
hear.
the presidency in the second round.
Okay. So I just wanted to go over a few corruption points and indicators here. I want to see if I will be able to play a video here as an intercession. But let me just quickly go over some of the corruption issues here. So even though President Weah promised to fight corruption, in his campaign and in the inauguration, Transparency International ranked Liberia 142 out of 180 countries in 2022. That represented a 6 point drop from the previous year, from 2021. So corruption has actually been increasing under President Weah, according to Transparency International. In 2022, the United States Treasury sanctioned three government officials: President Weah's own Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, Nathaniel McGill, the Serena Cephas, the Solicitor General of the Republic of Liberia, and Bill Tuiwe, Managing Director of the National Portfolio. Weah, once the three resigned later on, begrudgingly, Weah accepted their resignation and said he would conduct investigations and they will be prosecuted. Nothing has happened. Then we go to the $25 million mop up exercise. So $25 million was withdrawn on the Liberian government reserves in the Bank of New York. And it was supposed to be used to map up excess liquidity, so excess US dollars, Liberian dollars on the market. But the Auditor General's investigative report into how the process was carried out showed that 15 of the entities that that the government said they gave money to, those 15 entities say, no, we didn't receive any money from anybody. Nobody came here. Nobody gave us any mop up money. And at that amount was 491,000 entities that they listed in a mop up exercise were not even registered. So they did not exist. They were not registered entities. So technically they did not even exist. In the Liberian government owned registry, business registry, these entities did not exist. 52 entities that they said participated in the MOPR exercise, uh, when the auditors called them or texted them and went there, they got no responses from them. That amounted to 1,092,292 dollars. 8 entities that they said received mop-up money did not exist during the auditors' few visits of mop-up exercise. So basically, we're talking about corruption. These are the things. The video I wanted to bring in before we go to the other issue, before Cyrus, if you want to come in, Michael, if you want to come in, I wanted to see if we can bring in, before we bring in the U.S. ambassador's video, that press conference on corruption in Nigeria. But I want to give you all the opportunity to come to.
No, Alfonso, go ahead. You can hear me. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just hearing you now. Okay. All right. So let me try see if I can upload that video. So this video, I believe, is the one where the and the reasons why.
Yeah, Alfonso, if you can hear me, I said go ahead. Can you hear me now?
It's taking a little while.
Marco, can you hear me?
I
I
can
hear
hear
you
you.
now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
So
I can
the
hear you, sir.
video. Technical issues here. uh, oh, okay. It's rolling. Let's hope it. But while we're uploading the video, we can keep address these incidents for corruption. The one question I had is, you said that you have made these demands on the Unity Party, and you insist that they also do what Councillor Gongo would have done against corruption. You can keep talking about that while I search for the video.
You know, Dr. Tibanati Kuter wrote a beautiful article the last time on the issue of corruption. He said that while the ambassador was saying the government is corrupt, the World Bank was giving loan to the government. We can't be saying, and that's part of the problem we got. When you say somebody is corrupt, you should not do business with that person. Without commercial banks, there are reports showing that the government is corrupt and they are still lending money to the government. You got contractors. Reports are showing that the government is corrupt and they are still lending or signing contracts with the government. We cannot do that. I'm saying to all of us, we have to be serious if we don't want another chaos in our society. Whether it's a question of the mop up, what is the question of the 16 billion? Look at the 16 billion.
So I don't know, Sarah. It's
I can hear you, Francois, and I can hear you, Mr. Zizek. So
look at the issue of the 16 billion. That was a simple audit method that should have been done. All the auditors were supposed to do, send letters to the commercial bank to give them the list of the new bank notes they received between 2016 and 2018, and the list of the mutilated bank notes that is sent to the central bank. Simple. When you go to the bank to check on how much money you got, you look at your bank book, how much you deposited, how much you withdrew, and you will know the difference. So this was not a big audit in terms of the 16 billion. So the whole efforts of going around, going to the vault and not going to the vault, blacking out the numbers at the vault, to me, that was a waste of time. Simple audit. How much money the government deposited? Because when you get new notes, when the government print new notes, it exchange the new notes with the commercial banks, and the commercial banks got to pay for the new notes. It's not free. The new notes are not free. You exchange it. So if you give them 50 new notes and they give back 25 mutilated notes, then of course you know how much new notes you got. Simple as that. If the government was supposed to allow the commercial bank to receive letters from the auditors, in fact, the auditors, according to auditing rule, didn't have to get permission from the government to write the commercial bank. As an auditor, you should not, in fact, entertain any permission or insist that you gotta get permission to contact the third parties in terms of loan. You should do it independently. They should have submitted letters to the commercial bank to ask them how many new bank notes they receive and how many old bank notes they send back to the central bank. That was simple. You add all up, you will know whether the money were infused in the economy or not. They refused to do that. So the auditors themselves, and of course the status quo, they knew what they were doing. And they assisted the government to steal money from the Liberian people. Simple. I wrote an article on it. It was simple to do. It was not a big audit, because you're only verifying how much was deposited, how much was withdrawn. Period. That's all you needed to do. How many new bank notes you infuse in the commercial banks, and how many old notes you took away from the commercial bank. How difficult that is to determine. It's not difficult. But the auditor said, oh, we didn't get permission from the government. That's in violation of auditing rule 305. You don't need permission from the auditee that happens to be the bank. You don't need permission from the bank to contact third parties to validate the loan or at least authenticate the amount they owe you. You don't need any permission. It's your right as an auditor, external auditor, to verify what the third party has. So we all are part of the game. All of us. The well-off in terms of the lawyers and the accountants, they know what's happening, and they sit by and allow it. Look at the NGOs. How come our NGOs are receiving a lot of money, but you don't have any evidence that anything is being received because of the donation from our goodwill philanthropics or goodwill people? How come you go to Sierra Leone or you go to Rwanda, the NGOs results are there. They got roads, they got hospitals. How come our NGOs are not using the money for the purposes intended and they agreed to? Between 2013 and 2017, 5 billion was donated to Liberia. 5 billion. I wrote an article on it. What happened to the money? 552 million was allocated for agriculture. Where are the farms? Where are the food that the money was supposed to be producing? Oh, okay, yes, we give them the money and we buy the excess food from the Western countries, right? Is that what you call agriculture or food supply? What happened to the school? 442 million was allocated for school. I'm not talking about government revenue. I'm talking about money that was donated to Liberia, used by NGOs. What happened? You remember Weston Tappet told you they don't audit NGOs? He's right and wrong. Legally.
So are we?
No, we're talking about corruption. Legally, he's wrong. But in terms of practice, It is difficult because the NGO, the external NGO, they gave the money to entities that are not to be audited because they don't publish their statement. They don't publish their statement, and therefore you can't audit them. They are not corporations. These are individuals they give projects to, and they end up eating the money. They inflate the rent, they inflate the salaries, inflate the number of the person who's going to work on the project, and they eat the money. And that's why today people think corruption is okay because the NGOs are eating it, the government eating it, the
Do you hear
accountants,
me?
the lawyers eating it.
Yeah, I can hear
You
you,
guys hear me?
Alfonso. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So let me try to see if we can play just a snippet of this video. The sanctions and was talking about corruption overall in Liberia. 006. Okay. So I don't know, having some technical issues here. I hit play. Hopefully it starts playing. But the other thing is that is low. And the other thing is that two of the U.S. government elected to the Senate um, from Aggie County and Bill 2 Highway was. Yeah. So this is not the video. So I'm going to. This is not the one.
Of Liberia, and Doe became the head of
So I'm going to
state
remove it.
and the commander in chief of the armed forces of Liberia. I think his command name was CIC. We all remember that. These two
Alfonso, are you there? Marco, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can't hear. Oh, you
I
can
think
hear me. Good.
Alfonso is having technical problems.
I
He's
think
in the
Alfonso's
back.
struggling with the video that came out is not his.
Yeah.
I was trying to set up in the back of that. So let's give him a chance to run it. I think that's the old video from the former ambassador McCarthy that was talking about corruption.
Yeah.
Alfonso always got a problem with computer in New York City. What can you do about it?
I think maybe the connectivity in his building is poor. Maybe the bandwidth is just
Alfonso, if
too
you can hear
small
me,
for the moment.
I've just clicked onto that video. Let's see if it will roll. I know you have it up there. Active stage. Yeah, I've had some issues here also with the internet. Today is the CDC closing rally, and it seemed they're occupying a lot of the bandwidth from cell towers close by. But Alfonso, we're waiting for you. As soon as you're through, then we'll get to the sequel, the next topic we wanted to talk about on the relevance of November 12th and some of the lessons we can learn, including uh, what's happening on Friday in Nimar County.
Yeah, I saw that text message from you. I'd definitely like to hear more, see what's going on. I mean, it's alarming to say the least. Uh, You know, I know one of Kumokwa's sons was working in the CDC like government. I'm not sure if it's the same one. I'm not sure how many kids he has, but I know one of his sons was working in
It's the
CDC
same one.
government. The same one.
He's the same one. I'm not sure he carries the name Thomas Grumpa, but I mean, he's the same. He's the only son of Thomas Grumpa that I know. Quiet guy, so it's surprising some of the news
Yeah.
we're hearing. And so we're taking it with a bit of salt until we can authenticate it. But I did speak to a sitting representative of District 6 in Lima who was there, who said he was informed by the vice standard bearer of the UP, Jeremiah Kuhn, what happened on Friday. So as soon as we're
Okay.
through with the topic of corruption, then we go into that. So let me go. Let me give you back to Apostle. Lola, where are we right now?
You guys are not checking your phones, man.
I know I'm up and down. Apostle, can you hear me?
I do hear you. Do you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
So
I,
I was
I
saying
stepped
that
away.
the video I uploaded wasn't the video, so I had to remove it. So go ahead with your segment while I look for the video I wanted. The video I uploaded was the
Okay,
one
good.
after he visited the transparency agencies, but I was looking for the one where he announced the sanctions.
Oh, okay, good. Well, so you guys had a sorry I came in a little late. As I said earlier, you probably received my message. I was going through. I was driving, thinking I could join in while driving, but I got caught up in the dead zone. The CDC has a closing rally going on. Apparently, in that area, that probably so many people were using the internet and the cell tower there were overloaded, so I couldn't get online. But if you can hear me clearly and see me, I think I'm at a better place now, right, Michael?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so and what I wanted to chime in on today was a lesson of history that accidentally something had happened on Friday that reminds us as we go into this election circle that we should be very, very cautious and cognizant of because in on November 12th, today, 38 years ago, something happened that actually shaped what is Liberia today. So if I will give a synopsis, in 1980, 17 men overthrew President Talbot, and one of them, who they called the strong man, was General Thomas Kuonka from Nima County. In fact, the talk is that he insisted that Samuel Doe be the head of the coup because Samuel Doe was the highest in rank among them, a master sergeant. So he was highly regarded, highly respected. He became the commanding general of the army, while the rest of his folks took up homes all over Monrovia and rode Mercedes. He remained in the barracks. He remained a soldier amongst his men. So when in 2023, Doe announced that he was going to be contesting in the election of 1985, Thomas Pionka opposed it. He told Doe that they had promised to turn over civilian rule to the Liberian people, and he did not support Doe running for president. So Doe created, along with others, the NDPL, and he decreased the rank of the general and appointed him as Secretary General of the NDPL, a position he refused. Eventually, he ran into Nima County in his village. He was attacked there, and then he eventually left the country. So there are a whole lot of things, the Nima raid and all that took place. So fast forward, we go to the elections of 1985 October. Well, it's common knowledge that elections were rigged in favor of Doe. Uh, Officially, he won 50, I think, 0.9% of the vote, automatically becoming the elected president. But 1 month after the election, Thomas Krumpa, leading 2 dozen men, came in from Sierra Leone and announced a coup d'etat uh, on November 12th, today, 38 years ago. A bloodless coup. He changed the commanders of the various branches of the army. Liberians went into jubilation all over the country, happy. He said it was Doe that he came for, and I will hold on to what happened after that before I get to what happened in Nima on Friday and see if we can run Thomas by himself on November 12th when he announced uh, his uh, his coup d'etat. Let me find that video. I hope I don't be as bad luck here as Alfonso.
I think Alfonso that connectivity.
Okay, there you
Fellow
go.
citizens, this is General Thomas Grandpa. The patriotic forces under my command have seized power. Our forces have completely surrounded the city. Tomato is in hiding. There is no escape for him. I call on the men and women of the armed forces, the police force, and the security agencies to join with us in the liberation of our people from fear, brutality, and blood tyranny. I call on the students, the workers, and all patriotic citizens to stand with us as we do battle against the forces of injustice and corruption. We hear your cries and pleas, fellow citizens, and as sons of our people, we decided to take the ultimate gamble in the task of national liberation. You shall have free and fair elections and a democratic society. You shall regain your self-respect and human dignity, which have been abused by some Doe. As of the movement, all security forces at our borders are to ensure that our borders are closed. Our international airport is closed also until further notice. A dusk-to-dawn curfew is imposed as of today. Effective immediately, the following appointments have been made in the armed forces of Liberia. Chief of Staff, J. Maxwell Weah, Commanding General, Joseph G. Bia, Deputy Commanding General, H.Y. Jack, EMG Battalion, Cooper J. Tier, 1st Battalion, William Jala, 2nd Battalion, John Weah, 4th Battalion, Julius Kessley, 5th Battalion, Lawrence 12, 6th Battalion, Joseph B. Sharp, FOB, Anthony Kankler, BASU, Alfred Grant, all reconnaissance unit, Alfred Weeks, faithful to the patriotic forces. God bless you.
That was the voice of the late Commanding General Thomas Kuwankwa. So I'm trying to give a context of what was happening at the time before I bring us to where we are today and why it's relevant that we deal with this. This is how BBC carried the day.
with Focus on Africa. Liberia, has there been a coup or not? How would the expulsion of South Africa's migrant workers hit Lesotho? Yoweri Museveni hangs on to the hijacked Ugandan plane. And fighting in Sudan's Equatoria province, the government claims successes. Tonight in Focus. It's a day of utter confusion in Liberia. This morning, in the wake of the much-disputed general elections, dubbed rigged by the opposition, Liberian radio announced that there'd been a coup and that General Kwewonkpa's Patriotic Forces movement had taken over from head of state Samuel K. Doe. General Kwewonkpa, once Doe's right-hand man, was accused of plotting a coup in 1983 and fled the country to the United States. The announcement that he was apparently back brought people out onto the streets in celebration. A number of Doe's ministers were arrested and taken to the post-stockade prison, and there was gunfire. But this afternoon, Samuel Doe reappeared at the Executive Mansion to announce that the coup had failed. On the line to Monrovia earlier this afternoon, just as pro-Doe announcements were going out, Robin White asked Momolu Sirleaf, editor of the newspaper Footprints Today, just what was going on.
Right now, it is difficult to know. We are really in a state of confusion. In the streets, some people are even dancing, and they don't know of the latest development, because they haven't heard the radio. But some of my reporters were at the Executive Mansion, and they told me that they did see Doe, dressed in his military uniform, up on the fourth floor of the Executive Mansion, and he says that he is in charge.
Is there fighting going on at the moment?
That is a strange thing. There is no fighting in the streets. I've just driven up and down. It's very, very quiet. But now they are on the radio just now again as I'm talking to you.
Saying what?
They are announcing again that the coup has failed. They say they are in complete command of the armed forces of Liberia. And they are calling for the members of the patriotic forces to give themselves in immediately.
Who's actually making the announcement?
Wilson, I think. I think it was a sergeant. He's on the national radio. So now, apparently, the patriotic forces have lost control of the national radio station.
Where?
Well, that was the rendition from BBC on the same day, so you can imagine what was happening then. So let's see or what Doe himself had to say on that day, and then what happened after. So by 2 o'clock, President Doe was on the radio on the day of the coup, while Liberians were still rejoicing for his removal.
Foreign friends within and outside our borders, greetings. This morning at around 6:15 a.m., our national radio station, ERBS, announced through the purported voice of former Commanding General Tomo G. Kwongba that there have been a coup by so-called patriotic force under his command. Fellow Liberians, I take this opportunity to inform the nation that the coup has failed. I am still the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia and head of state. I call on all Liberian men and women of the armed forces, the police, and the security forces to stand firm and continue to remain loyal to the government. Do not permit this rebel, those dissident forces to intimidate you or influence you. I also call upon those rebel soldiers and their supporters to lay down their arms immediately, because we are in complete control of the situation. All those officers of the armed forces and paramilitary bodies who hold commissions from my government are still in complete charge of their various units. In order to continue to consolidate the situation and map up the remaining scattered rebels, a dusk to dawn curfew is hereby imposed. Mr. Kwangban and his chief lieutenants are being sought to be put under immediate detention. I call on all citizens, foreigners, and foreign missions near our capital not to harbor any of these dissidents. For doing so, we invite the full force of the law. All borders, including the Rara International Airport, are to remain closed. May God Almighty bless you and save the nation. Thank you.
Well, we all know now that the coup failed. Yeah, as I said, we all know that coup failed. The aftermath was an onslaught, not only against the perpetrators of the coup, but even people who were rejoicing. One of the famous journalists, Charles Bayon, who reported most of the event, lost his life on that day at the executive mansion. He was beaten and tortured and killed. Most of the commission officers who were from Nima County, who probably were not part of the coup, were also over time killed and exterminated. There was a major purge of the Q and Mano people. Many such people in the army escaped the country and went into exile. General Kurumpa himself was seized a few days later, and but I will let an eyewitness tell you what happened.
In the burial hold up and I think under house arrest. He escaped. I understand he came to this country. I've seen people who told me he was here in Minnesota. Now, it was here in Minnesota that he was encouraged to go to Liberia to do the incursion that he did. But the coup failed. What happened? Kurumpa was butchered. He was dismembered, and parts of his body were distributed in the streets of Monrovia. During that time, we have taken refuge in one man we used to call Uncle Gay. In fact, we call him Gay. The Crown people call Gay. So he was in the military, he was a guild man. So we had gone to his house to seek refuge because he was targeting Nima citizens. So we saw him come in with parts of Kurumpa in his hand and the blood of Kurumpa on his lips. Even though he told us that he did not eat him, but if he hadn't done so, he would have been shot on the spot. So people ate parts of Kurumpa in the street in Monrovia, especially to the military barracks. Any guild soldier or Crown soldier who did not eat him according to instruction was shot on the spot.
Well, as we know, Kurumpa was arrested, I think, on the 17th of November, some 4 or 5 days after the coup. He was killed. Some say he took poison, and people who ate him died. But it's part of the myth. But the reality was that he was killed, he was dismembered, and he was eaten. The notion was that he was a strong warrior, and the impression if you eat a strong warrior, then you get strong. But what is the relevance of this event of November 12th to our history? Barely 4 years later, most of those who ran into exile and the purge that was imposed on the Nima people led to the first civil war. So on December 29, 1989, mostly former soldiers from Nima County who had been trained in Libya under different umbrellas were led by Charles Taylor. This force included today Prince Johnson and many others. Njima Yitan and enter Liberia through Nima in the Buto crossing. And in less than a year, Samedo was captured and killed. And that event that started on November 12th, 1985, eventually led to the total destruction of Liberia. Today is April 12th. Why do I think this is important for us to ponder? On Friday, while campaign was going on in Nima County, led by Prince Johnson and Jeremiah Kuhn, who is the vice presidential running mate to Boakai from the UP side, and then others from the CDC side, a group led by General Kuankwa's son, the young Kuankwa who has returned to Liberia a couple of years back and worked for the CDC government, was leading a group in a village in Nima, in the center of Nima, when he heard that Prince Johnson and Jeremiah Kuhn were on their way to canvass in that village. So he sent them texts to both Prince Johnson and Kuhn that if they are coming to that village, they should be prepared because they will meet him there. Well, my understanding from Representative Tuang Likia, who just spoke to me today, is also in Nima, was that at the outskirts of the village, Prince Johnson asked that the convoy stop and they will send the police into the village to ascertain what the circumstances were. So the police went into the village. They didn't see anything suspicious. They came back, asked the group to go into the village. Upon arrival in the village, they realized that young Kuampai was in the center of the village with armed men, and eventually ordered the armed men to open fire on Prince Johnson and Jeremiah Kuhn and their team, and several persons were wounded. They said he fled. The people who did the shooting were seized and they were taken to Sanipolo. But this is the situation that is prevailing. Maybe on Monday, tomorrow, we'll get a bigger picture for all sides as to what happened. But I thought it was important considering the players that were involved and the people and the circumstances similar to elections. Because remember, November 12th, 1980 was a result of disenchantment over the elections that was held 1 month earlier, in which Samuel Doe declared himself a leader. And one of his closest compatriots, in fact, who I believe remained committed to their cause that the soldiers should not govern, came back to try to right that wrong, and he was eventually killed. And in less than 5 years, that led to the total destruction of the country. There's a lot of tension in Liberia right now. And for obvious reasons, the CDC is made out of people who at first time have tasted power. Some of the key persons have lost the elections. It appears as though that there will be many who will be jittery about losing that proximity to power. So we don't know what they will do, how they will lose the election. On the other side, you have the Unity Party. People who have been in the Ellen government for 12 years, had tasted power, wealth, and they lost. And when the CDC came, they were literally ostracized, excluded, and they're desperate to come back to power. So that showdown is going to be on Tuesday. So I thought it was important that we begin to sound the drums and caution people that these elections are but elections, and they should not be such that it will lead to any carnage, because we do not know how far that carnage will go, considering what happened 38 years ago. So I will open up for you guys. Let's have an open discussion about it.
So before we start the conversation, I wanted to talk about. I think Mr. Zeze will probably talk about it too, because those texts came through him. But there's also a text concerning another situation in Nima, where somebody is saying that information gathered from Butuo says that one Abengo poker, along with the CDC supporters from Monrovia and other parts of Liberia, have attacked Butuo. Butuo is under attack after one red from Dimpley, who is a special bodyguard to Abengo poker, slapped Mr. Cocker Quegru in his ear. Those seditions are over 200 men, and the condition is worsened. Nema County and Weah sent people to attack Nema County, and Butuo is under attack now. And
Hello? Yes, sir.
and then and then of course this guy is saying, which I don't want to read. Yeah, the last sentence I don't think I should. I don't know. He
Let me
said,
call you back
anywhere
in the
you
next.
see Sedition, Nema, put hands on them immediately. So he's asking for revenge, and I hope that doesn't happen. But that's so Nimba, and as we know, in the first round of the elections, there were also incidents of violence in Nimba where somebody, at least one person, was killed. Several people were injured. Property was destroyed. So Nimba seems to be a hotbed for election violence this year. Um, Again, I saw photographs on Facebook for vehicles that supposedly belonged to Prince Johnson and Jeremiah Kunda were attacked, and the windshields were shattered. Those were broken into. I saw photographs of people who were reportedly shot, actually in that incident in a hospital. So yeah, so it's a serious situation. We can just hope that this situation doesn't degenerate into into a bigger incident of violence. I think the strategy might be create violent situations so as to suppress the vote, so people will be afraid, run into the villages and bushes, and not come out to vote. And that might be a strategy to suppress the Unity Party vote, given their performance in Nimba in the first round, and the fact that they are now being supported by the LPP that got a significant amount of the votes in Nimba, that they might run up the numbers in Nimba, and so the way to do it is to cause confusion and through incidents of violence, and by that I expect that people will run out and not turn out to vote. So I assume that's what's happening, but I'm also afraid that this could really explode into a bigger situation. So did you hear that piece, Cyrus? You're in Monrovia. Did you hear the piece about Bootwork?
No, Alfonso, I have not heard it yet. What's happening in River is mostly around the closing rally of the CDC. So I'm assuming that tomorrow, even the issue with the Quincy's son and the attack on Kuhn and Johnson is not public knowledge. I was headed to Kanta on Friday, and I was urged not to go. And then also it was a bad weather, so I was in contact with the representative 200. So that's how I got to know what was going on there. So I will assume that tomorrow we'll be hearing more. But it's unfortunate because we're playing with look. There is this saying that for those who do not heed the lessons of history are doomed to repeat the past. We have a history before us. When you rock that boat, you know what happens. So it's good that we begin to speak very loudly about this because there are no hiding places for anybody in Liberia if we resort to carnage again.
Uh, Michael, Brother Zeze, any comments on that piece in terms of election violence in general, even if you don't have specifics about the Nimba incident, but election violence in general, how it could impact the electoral process, but generally the peace of the country?
Well, in this incident, I think we have clear names of who the perpetrators are. Assuming the story, plays out 100% as how Cyrus explained it. Um, the question is, will there be any accountability? Because throughout this election, we've not had any accountability for any of the violence that has gone on. People getting killed. The police has not followed through on any reports on their investigations, who was responsible, and what the consequences are. So I don't know what's going to happen with this individual. You know, if anything's going to happen at all, what the story is going to come out. So that's the concerning part. And we are what 2 days away from the election. So it's very alarming that this is happening right now in Nima County. And then secondly, we haven't had any accountability for any of the violence that's going on. So that is my concern. I do hope this get resolved and no one lose their life and no one else get injured, and that someone gets held accountable for this.
Brother Zeze, any comments? Brother Zeze seems
We,
to be frozen.
let me repeat what the Standard Bearer of the Unity Party said today in the press conference. Or I'll paraphrase. He appealed to all partisans, allies, including members of the Liberian People's Party and the citizen in general, that we should not be carried away by these attempts. These attempts are made to put fear out there that violence will be used. We shouldn't pay attention to them. Let's continue to hope that at least some sense will come upon our brothers and sisters, that elections will be better than going to violence. So we are appealing to our members. Do not give in to them, either to intimidate you or to influence you not to go and vote. Those people who are perpetrating violence will be brought to justice. Let us not put justice in our hands. You see, because somebody came far or my mother, I'm going to retaliate. We beg our citizens to support us. Let us not allow ourselves to be dragged down again into another chaotic situation that will destroy every little thing that's been left from the wrongdoings of this government. So we are just appealing. They are trying to ensure either to intimidate or to bring about war and maybe an interim government that will not prosecute them. That's part of the reason why they're doing what they're doing. Let us not give in. They were attempt and they are attempting to do, but we should not give in. One or two person killed, bad, but let us not use that to agree to go to war, because the results would be worse than the one or two person that they are killing. That's our advice to everybody.
All right, thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. I think that's very important advice. I did not listen to what the Unity Party chair said, Standard Bearer, sorry, might have said today. But that's good advice. I think the people of Liberia should steer clear of violence and, and civil war. I think we can resolve our differences through elections. Um, Leadership of the country is something to be bestowed upon people by the citizens through the election process and not through violence. We saw incidents of violence in Lofa before the first round. We saw incidents in Nimba, and we're seeing incidents in Nema now. With just a few days left for people to vote. I hope we don't see more. I do not have confidence in the authorities, that they will hold people accountable, because they never did. There were incidents of the incident that happened in Nimba where somebody died. We still do not know if anybody was prosecuted and held accountable. The incident in Lofa, we still do not know. But I think I agree with you, all of you. The way to address these kinds of things is to turn out and vote, and to remove the people who are perpetrating these acts of violence, electoral violence, and intimidation. So I want to just urge every Liberian to turn out on Tuesday, November 14th, and cast your vote. Cast your vote to end poverty. Cast your vote to end corruption, which is eating into the fabric of the country. Corruption is very pervasive. I was shocked I was not shocked. I should take it back. When I saw the president of the Republic of Liberia, Mr. George Weah, campaigning with Nathaniel McGill in Margibi County. The very Nathaniel McGill, who was his Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, who was sanctioned by the U.S. government, and who Mr. Weah refused to investigate and to prosecute, was actually supporting Nathaniel McGill to get in the legislature. Similarly with Bill 12. So this guy is not going to stand up for accountability. This guy is not going to punish corruption. As a matter of fact, I think corruption will really, really increase if Mr. Weah gets a second term because they've already seen that they can get away with doing whatever they can do, whatever they can take, whatever loot they can have. And so and Mr. Weah and the government will do nothing. So what's there to stop them from repeating it? So I think Liberia will be in a terrible place. We will not have accountability. We will not have rule of law. Uh, all of the accountability institutions have been destroyed by the Weah administration. Talk about the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. Talk about the Public Procurement and Concession Commission. Talk about LETI, the Liberia Extractive Industries Institution. All of these institutions have been gutted by this government. People who were tenured in those positions, many of them were removed illegally because they refused to carry Mr. Weah's water, and nothing happened. I will not rely on the judiciary either to enforce any laws because I don't think they have the capacity to. So really, it's in the hands of the Liberian people if we want a better country and a better society and a better way of life to turn out to vote. That's your power. That's the power that you have. Don't be intimidated in exercising that power. Um, yeah, that's what I would say on the issue of election violence and supposed intent being to intimidate people not to vote. Or even as Brother Jesus suggested, maybe to cause enough confusion so as to put in place an interim government that will not hold people accountable, that will pass some kind of thing and say we forgive everybody, let bygone be bygone. I think Liberia needs to get away from that mentality and that behavior. That's the only way, as Brother Jesus said, that Liberia will make progress. And so those people must be held accountable who are fomenting violence and killing people and shooting and harming people in the country.
So let me throw this question to you guys who are panelists. Uh, if there are empirical evidence after uh, Sunday's election that the election has been rigged, what do you think should happen?
Well,
So
from my
I'll
perspective,
go
depending on
first.
you want to go ahead, Alfonso? Okay, I'll go.
No,
So
go, Mike.
yeah, so you know, it comes down to where the evidence is collected from. So, like you said, there's empirical evidence that election was rigged. Um, I think we hone it down. Given the country doesn't have money, I strongly believe the government, if the Unity Party-led government wins this election, they will be inheriting a broke government. All the funds would have been used for this election, illegally, of course. But I think, given where the evidence is coming from, maybe we have reruns in those areas instead of having widespread elections.
Suppose the Elections Commission does not acknowledge that the election is rigged. This is not a hypothetical, right? In the
Yeah.
last week analysis of the vote count
Mhm.
in the three categories of president, senate, and the representative, we flag a discrepancy that the elections commission and nobody has answered, right? Mind you, the elections commission has not said how many ballot papers they brought into the country, but at the polling place, each voter is given three ballot papers. to vote for president, senate, representative. Uh, all things being equal, when the tally is done, in each category, the Elections Commission reported valid votes and invalid votes. No matter how the valid votes and invalid vote pair across the three categories, the total number of ballot papers at the end of the count should be the same. Am I
True.
correct?
Yeah.
Because three ballot papers were given to each person, except we are saying somebody may have voted for president and took the senator ballot paper and put it in his pocket or something and carried out. But the difference between the presidential ballot papers and the Senate ballot paper is a little over 8,000. Don't you think it was necessary that the Elections Commission explain to us this variance? Where are those 8,000 ballot papers? Now, if you factor in that the difference in the total count between Joe Boakai and President Weah was a little over 7,500, not too far. From it, especially where now it's becoming clear that many areas in the southeastern were not attended by uh, poll watchers from the other parties, and the suspicion is there that in fact ballot boxes may have been stuffed. None of those things have been addressed, and we are going into the final results with a lot of high tension across both parties. Are we not fixing ourselves for some confusion?
So I guess
So
my
if I may come in,
that the
mm,
have in the past, how have we addressed this situation? Because I'm pretty sure this will not be the first time we've had variances between presidential ballots, representative, and senatorial. Has it been this large? And how was it addressed?
So I don't
And
remember. I don't remember, Michael, anybody making a clear uh, case of the distinction between those ballots that require the Elections Commission to explain it. And this time around, at least we communicated that to the Elections Commission, even published an article and said that. So you would think that they will either say something about it, or they will either make the the corrections so that it does not appear that there is a possibility of impropriety. But going back again to 1985, the reason why we had November 12th, the Cuban invasion, was because in 1985, the elections were held. Most people believe that Jackson Hebdo won the elections. In the middle of the count, the president of Liberia named a new set of people and sent them to the SKD complex to go and recount the ballots, and they came out with their own numbers and said the president won. So no corrective measures were taken then, but that allowed for the breeding of discontent that will 1 month later lead to a coup that failed, the carnage that followed, the extermination of Nima citizens over the years that followed. If those things are not addressed and brought to the table, especially when questions are raised, and raising questions does not necessarily mean that wrong is done, but in the absence of answering those questions, it leaves the lingering suspicion that there's something sinister may have happened. So I think that it's our duty to keep on calling these things out. I'm going to keep on making that noise, and I hope that the Elections Commission this time around will be able to give a clear explanation of ballots that were issued to people. What became of those ballots? Whether they were discarded, whether they got destroyed, if you consider it. And the law requires that. If you read the law, the election law, new election law, section 4.13, It says clearly how you should do counting and how you should account for them. And in this last case, that was not done, and it has left the impression that there may have been cheating. Now that we have runoff, so people who felt they've been cheated, they feel they have a second chance, so they're not worried about it. But should we have a final election on Tuesday and there is a wide perception that there's cheating that is not addressed, there's no telling what will happen here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's recipe for chaos. That's recipe for problem. I think the political parties, whether they are going for runoff or not, should have all expressed concern about these things. And I think I asked Mr. Zeze of these things earlier, whether they are confident that the process, that the playing field is level, that the process is void of, not maybe not 100% void of, but that they can trust the process that they're going into. His response is that they're trying to close some of the loopholes. For example, the loophole of not having observers, election monitors in the southeast, that then supposedly allowed the CDC and the election commission to quote unquote stuff ballots. I think Speaker Buffer Chambers himself alluded to that. The election workers in his district were stuffed ballot boxes, and that's how he lost his election. And Mr. Chambers is a big CDC man. So we also know that there was an incident in Grand Cape Mount County where election officers were caught inflating numbers on tally sheets and changing numbers during the counting process. Again, nothing has been done. At the very least, we have not heard anything. So then, there's all of these lay the groundwork really for conflict and for problem.
To add to
And
that,
when we
Alfonso,
speak up,
is open knowledge right now in Liberia that there is a major voters card buying campaign that is going on, where they're paying $200 to buy the voters card of people in areas that are considered to be more leaning to the other party, and they're destroying those voters cards to prevent these people from voting. The last I heard was that some 50,000 voters cards may have been bought in Lima County alone. So these are major issues that are going on, and the Elections Commission is sitting supposedly as though everything is going on.
yeah,
So
I'm wondering though why, if people know these things, why aren't speaking up? Why aren't they even going to court to challenge the election commission or the law enforcement agencies?
Precisely my point. So that at the end of the day, uh, when these issues are raised and are addressed, there's a likelihood that they will lead now to conflict rather than being addressed in the civil legal manner that we're, especially we're in a situation where people are already voicing no confidence in the legal system, no confidence in the elections commission.
Yeah, Mike, I think you were trying to come in.
yeah, I was trying to say the same thing you said about, why are these allegations coming out and we're not seeing the election commission, putting out statements, talking about them, investigating these situations, and the police themselves, and when people are reporting these things, why are they not presenting evidence, of people who are buying the cards or people who are selling their cards? Why, I did see some videos by Joshua Bly at one point in time, stating that someone was in his community buying cards, and someone had come to the boys who lived with him and said, they were trying to set the guy up or entrap the person who was trying to buy cards in their community. But I didn't see any follow up to that. I didn't see any police investigation. Nothing. Is it because the police that they don't have the capacity to do it, or are they just working with the government and not interested in those things? Does the election commission even have its
We
own
are in a
investigation?
tough
So I think the
we are
police.
in a we're gentlemen, we're in a tough to just today, right? And to some extent yesterday also. Yesterday was the closing rally for the UP, and today the CDC. So most of the road in the inner cities are inundated with people. They're blocking cars, they're all over the place, motorcycle crossing in front of car. And there are hardly any police presence. Where you see the police, they're standing on the side and they're watching if they are not caught up in the traffic themselves. What that leads me to think is that the police does not feel empowered. So, 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 where there are elections issue or people buying and selling cards, whatever the case, I doubt that any police person, and this is some of the ill of over time the police being overwhelmed by power, where the police have been made a party instead of serving the interests of everybody. The police cannot go to somewhere where somebody who has authority is causing trouble. They're afraid to do that because you remember that one of the deputy commissioners of police had gone to a CDC event where there were problems, and he was summarily flogged by the CDC people, and nothing came out of it. So all those things may be coming to play now, where you need a vibrant and strong police force in the case of elections to ensure fair play. And so our own the chicken is now coming home to roast. And what that might lead to is
Yeah,
the
I
fear that I
think
keep resounding, that
beyond
people may end
beyond
up
having the resources.
taking the law in their own hands. I wanted to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sure
I,
that
unfortunately, well, not
I
unfortunately.
communicate that on the show today. Yeah, so that we can spread the word. We have those discussions more and more, in the hope that it will question the people who have authority. That in these few hours that we have to elections, that the police will become more robust, because you can't will law and order and security. You have to enforce it. You have to have people who are willing, trained, and ready to enforce the law and order impartially. You can't just sit back and hope that things will be all right. Alfonso, I
Yeah,
got
and,
you
and
working
I'm
your
hoping
Go
and
ahead,
face.
praying
Michael.
that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, 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 no. I'm definitely saying that the police, in my view, is not so much the lack of resources; it's more so the lack of will, and it's more so, the directions, the directives that they've been given by the leaders, either directly through verbal directives or through the actions of their leaders. The police are being told, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. There's no police officer dares go to a place where the ruling CDC is involved in buying voter registration cards. Not only will you lose your job, you might lose your life. I mean, we've seen incidents where police stood by as people were committing crimes or attacking other people because those people who were doing the attacking were supporters of the police. What happened when a group of hooligans attacked University of Liberia students who had just gone to the U.S. embassy, in front of the U.S. embassy, to protest? They were brutalized. They were flogged. Nothing happened. Representative Karas Gray went to the University of Liberia campus. An incident ensued or happened as a consequence of that. People got injured. Nothing happened. As I said, we saw the incident in Foya, Lofa County, before the first round of the election, where police either came out of, we saw on video, coming out of Tamafala House, rather than guiding the people who were marching to make sure that nobody did anything wrong. An incident happened, two people got killed. Nothing has happened, or at least to our knowledge, I haven't heard much about the police officers and what happened. Of course, we play a video here where they were actually asking Thomas Fowler to appoint CDC police officers, CDC magistrates, CDC judges in Lofa County. That happened. So it's a complete scheme. It's a complete structural change and intervention that is happening here. So it's no mistake, it's no error that the police is not intervening in these kinds of things. It's no mistake that the Justice Ministry is not prosecuting anybody in these kinds of things. And it's no mistake that the Election Commission is not intervening in these things, even though people have been speaking out about them. I mean, in the first segment of this show, we talk about what the European Union Observer Mission said in their first round initial report of how people were being coerced, civil servants were being coerced to attend ruling party rallies and to vote for ruling party by people, local government officials, government officials at the highest level. Those are significant violations. We also talk about election financing. CDC clearly, according to the EU Observer Mission, violated all of those regulations. Not only did they spend more than the money that is designated in the law that they should spend, which is, I believe, 2 million for president, 1 million for vice president. They spent more than that, but beyond that, they were using abundant government resources, and the word abundant, I put it in there because the EU used it, to give themselves an advantage in the election. And of course, the Election Commission did nothing about it. Was there to give us confidence that they will do something now about people buying, voter registration cards, or about people attacking people and telling people don't come here. As a matter of fact, the incident in Nimba involving Anthony Quilompa, my information is that Mr. Jeremiah Cohn and Mr. Prince Johnson had gone to the Election Commission, had gotten permission from the Joint Security to hold a rally in that town on that day.
In our town. Correct.
Not Mr. Kuonpa and the CDC. Yeah. But they decided to use the force of the incumbent, said the force of the CDC, the backing of the police and everything to go ahead and disrupt the other program and shoot at them. I haven't heard whether or not Mr. Kuonpa or anybody has been arrested. I don't expect they will be arrested. It's not because the police doesn't have resources. It's because the police is doing what they were told to do, in my view. I hope I'm wrong.
Well,
So
we
that
talk
brings
about in
us
Africa
back
is there.
to your question, Cyrus. What? Mhm.
Yeah, I was saying, that brings us
No, I was
back
going to
to
say
the
that
whole
brings us
topic.
back to Cyrus's question about what will happen if the elections are rigged. Mhm. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Sorry,
Well, just finish
sorry,
your point,
Michael. Go
Alfonso.
ahead.
Finish your point.
No, I was saying the
All right.
point
So
here
I was
is
saying
that
that.
what will happen will people take the law into their own hands at some point, and that could affect the process. But yeah, I'm done. Go
Uh-huh.
ahead.
Go ahead, Marco.
All right. So I was saying, that brings us
Mike, you're not
to the
hearing
whole
us?
topic that it's difficult uh to remove incumbent presidents, in Africa, because that our systems are set up to, you know, support the president that is in power. They have total authority, and we don't have solid institutions that can hold, you know, if the president is of a different mindset. Our institutions, our organizations, our government agencies are all set up to support the president, ruled by him or her, and that person has absolute authority. So in these situations, it's difficult for the police to be independent, the National Election Commissions to be independent. All these people are appointed by the president. They all feel loyal. And in the future, if they want any favors from this president, they have to bend to his or her will. And these are the situations we have. The only independent body that we have in our country that operates independently of the president is the legislature. And we know that body is the most corrupt body in the country. So if the legislature doesn't have that level of commitment to uh, holding our institutions to accountability, then the country is not going anywhere. because that's the only body that should be that can be feared by these appointed individuals in NEC, police commissioner, all these ministers, because they are accountable to to that organization or that entity as well, and they can be summoned and questioned. You know, and if the legislature is in the pocket of the president, or in just not committed to accountability, then we have these situations. So these things we're talking about, we have not heard any legislature or any representative or senator come out and ask questions, or any organization within the legislature that is responsible for oversight in any of these areas call on the National Election Commission or call on the Liberian National Police or the security sector to answer questions about what's going on, the deaths that are happening, why Liberians are dying during this whole election process. Nobody has asked any question. One or two of them have made statements individually, but what about those that are on those committees that are responsible for these different organizations? Why are they not calling those leaders in and asking questions, asking them, what are you doing? What's going on? What are you doing? And providing that information to the public, because they're seeking their own interests as well. So for me, it comes down to, you know, our legislative body. If they are not committed to accountability, everybody else is going to do what the president wants. And I won't be surprised, because then I don't know what percentage of the legislature CDC has, in terms of representatives and senators, but I don't think they're the majority. I think opposition parties have more representatives and senators in the legislature than the CDC as itself. So why are those guys not holding the ruling party in check? Because they're all seeking their own benefits. So in as much as
I
the
just
party is saying something, you haven't heard any legislature saying anything, on the committees they're on to serve on the CDC. Same with the ANC, the LPP, all those parties. I'm pretty sure they have representatives and senators, and they're on some of those committees that are overseeing security or election. And none of them has said anything to summon any of those entities. So we do have a problem, and it comes down to leadership in the legislature.
Marco, it will be interesting to note that technically we have a lean duck legislature right now, because all 73 seats in the legislature were out for contest in October 10, and half of the Senate was also up for contest. So to expect that the legislature, even in such a critical time of transition, will be making a statement when even in normal time they do not, it would be really wishing for Jesus himself to come down to earth. Uh, on this issue, I can only urge, continue to speak out, urge
Yeah.
caution. Uh, the rightful people who are either omitting in their roles, continue to sound out that they need to do that, so that there cannot be created a vacuum that may lead to people taking the law in their own hand. I know we have run through your time, Alfonso, but I wanted to, if you guys have concluded on this matter, to end on a good note about a Liberian that is doing something very remarkable right now. So I will pass it on to you if you guys can close up on this topic, then I will end up with this news about this young Liberian.
No, 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 no. I think we've discussed the topic sufficiently enough. We can only hope that the authorities will do the right thing and save the country from falling into another cycle of bloodshed and violence. We've seen too many deaths already around this election. About 3 or 4 people have died, and it's not necessary. Um, so we hope that the process will go on smoothly. People will turn out to vote, and that the will of the people will prevail. That's all. And I want to urge all Liberians really to turn out to vote. As I said before, vote, vote for democracy, vote for peace, vote for development, vote for employment opportunities. I mean, poverty is on the rise. I was just reading today, and I have it in our presentation here. You guys can take time to look at it. 50.9% of Liberians fall below the poverty line. About 60% or so, about 44% fall below the extreme poverty line, which is living on $1 or less per day. Young people do not have jobs. Young people ages 15 to 35 constitute at least 65% of the Liberian population. But if you look at the real unemployment rate within that population, it's about 70 to 85%. That needs to be turned around. and the Liberian people can turn that around through their vote.
Thank you, Professor
Yep,
Michael.
that's all I
You
had to
want to
say on
close up
that
on
piece.
anything?
Well, my focus on this has been that no matter what happens, what my message to the Liberian people would be: you see all the chaos that's going on, you see all the what's the word I should use? Hypocrisy from all of these political commentators, in the media, switching sides, and and saying different things and giving you reasons to support the person they're supporting. My hope for the Liberian people is that vote for your heart, who you feel that the next president should be. Whether it's George Weah or Joseph Boakai. Don't listen to these political commentators because they are seeking their own benefits. So vote for your heart, and I do hope that whoever wins the election is actually who the Liberian people self-selected and not through some dubious means. If the Liberian people want George Weah to stay in there, hey, that's what they choose. If the Liberian people want George Joseph Boycott to take over and change things, then that's who they choose. But it should be free and fair, and it should be the will of the Liberian people. No cheating, no rigging of the elections. So that's my hope and prayer.
Thank you, Margaret. That's all of us hope. So, on the election note, we'll try on Tuesday to monitor and bring that out on the platform, how people are voting up to the results in the late evening. Uh, I'm coordinating an event at the Cape Hotel here where we have people and some music as we report that, and we'll connect that live for you guys to participate on the other side. Now, on the other issue, there is a Liberian kid by the name of Abner Youngley. He's an IT security expert, but he's also a pilot, a licensed pilot. A few days ago, he took off with a single engine plane to try to make a record to fly the North Atlantic from Baltimore through Canada, the North Pole into England, and then back down to the Mediterranean through North Africa, Senegal, and then to Liberia. I don't know where exactly he is right now. The last reported somewhere from Iceland, but he'll be flying right now. I like you Liberian people to keep him in your prayers. It's a dangerous endeavor. He says it's doable. The last message he sent out was that he was tight with funding and was asking that people who were willing to contribute. He has a GoFundMe account. I will roll some of the videos that he just sent us. Uh, if you can and you are willing, this is a noble effort. Go to his GoFundMe account and contribute anything. What little is it that you can share? His name is Abner Youngley. This is his route. He had left for Baltimore. I think he's probably up in North Africa now. I will check that and I will update the group later on. This kid is airborne in this single engine aircraft. These are some of his pictures. He's capturing some very amazing images. You see, he has his camera right over his head. This is his aircraft, the N9273X. We'll be looking forward to information on his arrival in Liberia, when that will be, so that we can inform people as much as possible to be at the airport to welcome him and congratulate him on making that record that I hope he's going to make. It's Abner, it's spelled Ibner. His last name is Youngley, Yonly. AbnerYonly.
And when and if he arrives in Liberia, hopefully you will get on that flight, correct?
No, when he arrives in Liberia, hopefully I will be at the airport to receive him. I don't know if that single engine plane will be ready to fly back to America again. It's a
Fly,
major,
fly, fly back,
it's a major
fly
feat.
back to America with him. Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, but I think today was a sober, very sober exchange on very
Yeah,
crucial issues concerning our country. The issue of corruption. I heard you guys cover most of that. I hope that Joe Boakai wins the election. I actually hope people are accountable. You know, people who have built these humongous mansions and squander public resources. At least we will begin the time to fight impunity and set the pace for accountability in our country because I don't see how we can develop a country without accountability.
absolutely,
Yes, sir.
absolutely.
But
Yeah,
it's
Alfonso.
I know we have a short period of time, but we never really had. I know, Alfonso, you wanted to talk about this whole endorsement market. You brought that topic up a few weeks ago, but we never really dived
Yeah.
into it.
Well, it maybe it'll be a good idea
But it is interesting to see
if you
how
guys,
things are
if you
playing
have some,
out. Yeah,
if you guys have
BCC is
some
playing
time,
a game.
if you
Uh,
have some time, you could probably run a show tomorrow.
yeah,
Run a show every day until after the elections. Alfonso, how about that?
yeah, because it's interesting to see how things are playing out with all these endorsements and political parties are splitting up, and some people, the party leaders are endorsing one party, and elements in the party are going and endorsing the other person. It's crazy, but it is interesting to see.
Yeah.
So tomorrow I have a work engagement that begins at 6:30. That begins at 6:30 p.m. If we want to do it earlier, we can do so. But I have a work engagement that begins at 6:30. We can do a show
but then
tomorrow. We start
yeah,
early.
what
We end
if we-
before 6:30, and then I can.
what if we just hold on and plan for Thursday and start at 6:30 and run into the election reporting period?
Okay, we can do that too. Definitely.
Tuesday, yeah. And also we have an outstanding issue. Michael raised a concern about formalizing the research around elections that we all agreed to. We haven't had that meeting. So can we commit to another day to have it?
I'm available whenever we want.
Yeah. We can even do that on Thursday. Yeah.
So we meet on. We have this.
So
section
let's do
that
this.
deals
Let's
with
text
this
each
issue
other.
on
I mean,
Tuesday.
we can decide on time, but other than that, yeah. So let's come in
I
earlier
think,
on
Alfonso, maybe you
Tuesday
should
so that we
create
can
a
discuss it.
WhatsApp group. It'll be easier and faster to communicate there than how we'll be communicating and stuff. You have everybody's number.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That is correct. I will do that. I will. Yeah. All right, I'll do that.
Okay,
I'll
so you
do
guys
that,
have
and
a good- you guys have a good,
tonight, tomorrow morning, so that we all can be in there. And
Okay,
Yep.
have a good rest of the Sunday. It's,
Yep.
it's
Good night,
almost
guys.
10 o'clock here, so we're about to lock it up.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
the body joined the citizen parade.
You can bet the whole streets have been blocked already. Check out a lot of unhappy people all over the I can't find